Reconciliation means admitting to the truth and owning it. Owning that there was a lot of hurt, grief, pain caused. Owning it and then saying, can I still be friends with you? Can we still go on? Can we make up for what has happened? Can we start again? And I think this is what I would tell the German government, that they should be willing to move forward with that, saying yeah, which they did. I mean, the president came and said, "We're sorry, we own it," and so now that has to go into action.
Welcome to a new episode of the podcast Decolonial Memories. I'm Thomas Fuß. Today I have the honor and pleasure to talk to Mr. Talengwa Kaseza Lukumbuzya from the island Ukerewe in Tanzania. Our conversation took place on 1st of June 2026 in Berlin. Welcome to the podcast Decolonial Memories, Mr. Talengwa Kaseza Lukumbuzya. Thank you very much for joining me in this conversation.
Much obliged. Thank you for having me.
Please, let's start with your personal life. Where did you grow up and your education and professional career in the steps that you've gone through?
I was born in Ukerewe. I was born during British colonial occupation, 1958, which was just before Tanzania was in the process of claiming independence. So my father, who was Omkam at that time, was involved with the preparation for getting independence. So when we got independence, he was principal secretary at the foreign ministry, and then he was made diplomat. He went to Washington as principal secretary, and then from there, principal secretary in New Delhi, and then after that, he went to Washington as ambassador, and then after Washington, we were sent to Sweden as ambassador, and we stayed in all those countries 3 to 4.
You went along with the whole family, of course.
The whole family.
Yes.
So we grew up technically outside of Tanzania. And after Sweden, we went to Canada, High Commission. And there we stayed quite long. I think it was 5 years as well. And then unfortunately, my father passed away. He's still out there. And then I went to Sweden while my father was High Commission in Canada. I went to Sweden to pursue my higher education at the Royal Technical Institute of Technology, Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm. And then after that, while I was studying, I had the chance to do an internship at the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, which was in Vienna. I went there and I happened to stay there. I met my wife, who's Austrian, then we stayed there. Then after the UNEVA, I joined the Atomic Energy Agency. And there I stayed until I retired.
Also in Vienna. This is based in Vienna.
Yes.
Please say something about your community and your position within the community.
Well, after my father passed away, I was then inaugurated. I was ordained as his successor, being the eldest son. But then you also look not just the eldest son of the deceased king, you look at all other males in the royal family who can succeed. And so they all agreed, I would be the perfect one. And so I have been, since my father passed away, the Omkama, which is the primary custodian of their cultural and heritage, traditions, customs, and language. So I'm supposed to be emphasizing that, keeping the community together. We are an island community, which makes us sort of special. We are on the largest island in the Lake Victoria. It's the largest inland island in Africa, which makes it also really it's the largest freshwater fishery in the world, Lake Victoria, and it's a big battle actually being misologist. That means defining ourselves as islanders and trying to convince the mainlanders.
And you're part of the Republic of Tanzania.
I'm part of the Republic of, yeah, we're part of the Republic of Tanzania. So we are in a district in Mwanza region, which is at the lake. So everything is just like with all the other communities. Tanzania is a nation comprising of many nations. So we have many languages, many cultures, different ways of greeting each other, of dealing with family issues. So it's over 130 different nations are in Tanzania, but we have managed quite well. In Tanzania, we were blessed with having a president, the first president, who did a tremendous job in convincing us, leading us toward a multinational, multicultural nation. To many Germans, they don't see us as being multicultural, but we are indeed very, very multicultural. And we're a success story in that among the communities themselves. We've learned how to live with each other, intermarrying, crossing borders. So on Ukerewe itself, we are not the majority. The Kerebe are not the other tribes. We are the largest single ethnic community there, but we are not the majority. And this has always been the case, even before independence, even in the early days. But it shows how we are able to live with it, deal with it. And we're doing it quite well. There hasn't been any ethnic battles or fights, disputes to that extent that we can talk about this battle or this war. That doesn't happen to us. There could be some few, but those are very isolated. Us around the lake, even with our neighbors who aren't sharing the borders with us in different countries, we didn't in the old days we would be doing long distance trade. And so we are, as a community around the lake, I think we're probably some of the most peaceful people, all the communities at the lake. This has been so in time immemorial. We've always been like that. Why it's like that? This is something that I think we take for granted, which is dangerous. Never, never, never take peace for granted. You need to know why, and you need to work at it so it remains that. And then you also need to know why. So if something happens, you need to know how to go back to that peaceful coexistence. And as islanders, we're known for being. The lake itself actually was called Lake Ukerewe. Speak came and said, take me to Lake Ukerewe, right? And then he christened it Lake Victoria, gave it to somebody else as if he had the right to. But that's also something that we have to talk about decolonializing. It was Lake Ukerewe. Why? Because we were the ones who were known in the lake. We were the ones who were known for being the sailors. So everybody knew that there were Kerewes out there, so it's the lake of the Kerewe.
So, what happened to your people when the German occupiers, colonizers, entered your country?
They were soon to be known as Wazungu Wakali, which is the real aggressive, mean Mzungu, the white man. Because the Germans were known for being very, very ordently. They did things pretty systematically, meticulously, but with very much force, military style. And so we don't have nice memories about them. My people, they did come in. They had a king at that time who was the head of the community. He was more or less a very military style person. So that was not a good match. And they clashed, and then he was disposed of.
So there were, let's say, heavy fighting,
No, there
armed
wasn't. No,
fighting?
there
No.
wasn't. There wasn't. It was just him and his army. It wasn't the whole community because we also had issues, with the rain at that time, and so there were issues with, I don't know exactly how he was disposed of, but then he had to leave. He wasn't killed. He had to leave, and then a new king came in.
Imposed by the Germans?
No, 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 no.
No.
That was the natural, into the natural lineage that came in there. So
Now we're talking about the year 1895, I read,
something like that, yeah.
that the Germans, let's say, violently imposed the rule on your people.
Violently imposed on him. They had to fight with him because he wasn't, and it was mainly to do with, well, people. This is where the discussion comes, because it was mainly a religious thing. It was a church that he fought, that he did not want to allow Christianity on, but there were lots of them who did anyway. And it wasn't the Christians themselves; it was the white fathers who were very known for
The Catholic order.
exactly,
Yeah.
the Catholic order, that they don't have a history of going out there and being aggressive, right? They do have a history of starting schools and starting hospitals. So again, it was bringing in a foreign religion, bringing in foreign culture that all of us were not happy with. And so you meet it with skepticism, you either hold back and don't join, or you join, or you fight. And so the king at that time chose to make a standpoint, and he thought that gave the Germans then an excuse to come in and be on the side of the church.
And so once he was disposed or had to leave, by force, then the Germans ruled undisputedly.
They were in the country. It was already part of Germany, South Africa. So it wasn't ruling. They always came to read if they could continue the community's already structured organization, then they allowed it. But you pay me, you work, and then you give me the work. Plant cotton that we did, plant this, plant that, and you come and work for me. Give up and pay taxes. That's what
Like the indirect rule.
Exactly, indirect rule. We allow you to go out, and then we come and take. That's what with us by the lake. They weren't as nice to others. If you had wealth underneath the ground, gold or whatever, then it was different. Then they were different, and you had other communities that were warriors. They were ready to fight, and that also became different. They weren't nice at all with others. It was very aggressive. And the funny thing is that we have one of the battles, Maji Maji, which you've heard about that, where the king who they were fighting against, his people, the head, Mkwawa he was called, he committed suicide rather than be taken, and he gave a good fight. Now the Germans, it's practically genocide there as well, like they do with the Namibians, the Herero. They would burn the fields, make sure that these people didn't have food. They would displace people, burn houses down. So that fight that became known as the Maji Maji unified us. So then we said, okay, now we have a reason too. And I think this is where Tanzania was blessed with, saying that tragic that happened, it didn't die in vain. It made us unified. We knew that if we come together fighting one common enemy, then it's better than having these problems against each other. And so even the other ones, because the other community that used to fight these communities, they also said they put their put their animosity aside and said, no, for this cause, let's come together. Because this is an issue. This is a foreigner coming in and disrupting all of us just because of the way we look, right? And they come in and they're not friends with any of us. So that was some of the reason that we should go together. And that, I can say, is a blessing for all of us until today.
I was going to ask, how are your people remembering German colonial period today? Are there certain practices of commemoration?
I don't know. The community, they celebrate, the Maji Maji. They celebrate the independence, and we talk about the independence, about how we were unified.
But on Bukareve itself?
No, Bukareve, there is nothing that we do to commemorate the Germans going away. That happened quite long, because after the Germans came the British, right? These are the spoils of World War One. But to say the truth, it wasn't exactly. We weren't exactly colonized anymore. We were a protectorate. There's a difference. There's a big difference. I would like to. I don't know why we don't do it. Saying no, we had our independence after the First World War. We were a protectorate until the British saw that we were enough to leave, and so that's why one of the reasons that we didn't shed blood for our independence, like Kenya did with the Mau Mau. They had to really convince the British that they should leave. We didn't have that because we weren't a British colony. And I would like that we, in the decolonialism, that we're trying to decolonize our history, that we should also stand up and say, no, actually we've had our independence way before. We just had the British there, but they weren't colonizing, and so they didn't put that much effort in brainwashing us, as they did with the other ones. So was it easy to choose Swahili? Yes, because English wasn't hammered into us as much as it was in Kenya and Uganda. So in that sense, we were lucky. Our president got up and he said, no, let me choose another thing, and we could. And also with Tanzania, again, blessed in that sense. After independence, Tanganyika didn't get independent. There is no Tanganyika, right? The Germans had occupied Tanganyika, right? And the British used Tanganyika to protect it, but there is no Tanganyika. Again, we were blessed with that, thanks to what we did say, no, let's expand our borders. So the border we have now as Tanzania is nowhere in the history books. I don't know why we don't bring that up more often.
Yeah, with the Zanzibar, the islands
exactly.
of Zanzibar coming in. Okay.
Another nation.
Yeah.
One of the few, I think the nation has lasted the longest. A union of countries. It's one of the ones that has lasted the longest.
Yeah.
And yes.
So in the next section, we'll talk about your visit to Berlin, why you're here and what you expect to come out of this visit. Mr. Kaseza, you have come to Berlin with a group from Okereve to visit 3 institutions in Berlin, the Natural History Museum, the Botanical Museum, and the Ethnological Museum. What's the purpose of your visit?
This whole visit is about reconciliation. Reconciliation with the Germans who weren't our friends, who occupied our countries, who interrupted our development. So it's reconciliation of that time. But also it's about, when you do reconciliation, you make up, you talk about it, you say you're sorry, you explain, and then you make up. And then when you make up, you say, okay, how can we now move forward in this new relationship we have? We've cried out, we've said why we couldn't, and the Germans, I have the, okay, now we did this. Steinheimer came and said, we're sorry, which other former colonists aren't able to do, but Steinheimer came and said, we're sorry.
In November 2023,
exactly.
Yes, he went to Songea.
Yes, so in saying that, he's saying, let's do reconciliation. Let's talk differently with each other. Let's look at each other at Augenhöhe. We're no longer sitting on this throne, and you're on your knees. That you're not forced on your knees, and if you stand up, we're not going to beat you like we did before. Now we're sitting across each other on a round table. So
Can you take us a little bit into your talks? Let's start with the Ethnological Museum. What issues did you address? Now, particularly with regard to Kigilya, right? The statue that was taken by the Germans.
He's one statue. We're going there to look at our society. And in all those artifacts there, you see how our society was. You look at the craft skills that were made in those things.
Do they have other artifacts in the Ethnological Museum?
They have many artifacts.
Like what? Can you give some examples?
Statues. They have other statues. They have things that in household, what you use for everyday life at home, what we use for going fishing, what we use for going hunting. The things that we use for in the house. The gourds that we use for water, for carrying food, for hanging up in the house. And so there were many things that you use for farming.
You went to the depot in Dahlem to look at these things. So
and they showed us. They had given us a list because they couldn't show everything. So we gave us a list. So we chose lists of what we wanted. There were shields. There were music instruments. So we're looking at the crafts. How they were made, why they were made, what they were for. Everyday life. You have the things that we sat on, what we cooked with, the instruments that we played with, the instruments that we went to war with, or how we went fishing with. So it's looking at artifacts that we use in everyday life. Kigilya is one of them. The special thing about Kigilya is that he was the protector of Lukonge. It was a statue that
the leader of the
exactly
the leader at that time, Koronga. Yeah.
He was the Omkama who had the fight with the Germans. This was supposed to be from his father, and that was spiritually possessed with his uncle's spirit. His uncle, a maternal uncle, because with us it's always, after the king is the maternal side, so the maternal mother is the queen mother, who would be the next in line, the strongest one in the republic, the strongest advisor. So Kigilya was possessed with the soul of his mother's brother, or a male person on his mother's side.
So the Germans took that away from...
The Germans took it away. In fact, there was this thing that it was also that the church could have been involved, because they wanted to set an example that, you're not supposed to dislike Christianity, you're supposed to all be involved. So that was also, on the church side, it wasn't so good. But, you see it was... mutilated.
It was mutilated,
yes. The story is that it was mutilated by the church, not by the soldiers, but by the church. Which, okay, true or not, I don't know, but it was mutilated. It was beaten to show that he doesn't have protection. And I think with that, he fled, knowing that he had lost then. And then the story goes on that the Germans then took Kigilya with them. Why they took it with them, I don't know. To take away that mystical strength, but then this was the first time it ever happened. We weren't a warlike people, so I have no idea what the intention was there. Maybe to humiliate him, or that now he doesn't have his protector.
Would you please share some of the feelings when you went to see Kigilya in the depot of the Ethnological Museum? What happened to you? What happened to your heart looking?
No, it was emotional. It was emotional because you see, I know myself, Omkamas, that your Mjomba, your uncle, maternal uncles are usually your protector. Right? They're there to give you advice. They're there to stand and take the bullet, take all the abuse. So I knew that was the job he had. So I stood there and talked to him. I knew that this is what he had to do, and I'm sorry that you kind of see that okay, this had to happen to him. He was just doing his job, trying to protect the person, being the relative. Although it's a statue, you still knew that he looked at it that way, so he was possessed. Now, I'm not superstitious, you know, but you knew the symbolism behind it.
So it must have been quite touching and painful for you, right? For the encounter, what was it painful for you?
No, emotional.
Emotional.
Emotional. It was painful. It wasn't because I continued. He wasn't. He wasn't my uncle. He was my second uncle. He was my great grandfather's cousin. So it wasn't directly on my line, but still he was my relative. He was still a cousin of my grandfather. So he's still a relative, and that was his protector. And I knew how important it is having that because I grew with my father's, wajombas. So I have my wajombas. I'm still living on the property with my grandfather's wajombas, right? So we know who are the ones who are always the maternal relatives, and so they continue to protect me as well. Not just my mother's brothers, but my grandfather's maternal, my father's maternal, and my grandfather's maternal side. So I knew this was him. This was the strength. This was the protector, and he couldn't. Yes, it's a sculpture. Again, I'm not so superstitious, but you knew what the symbolism was. So that symbolism, you felt sorry. Yes, it was. It was. You know how important it was. You know how important the Muyumba is, and you gave that respect. And you give it respect. He's supposed to be hidden. Lukonga always had it hidden. So we want to take it home. It shouldn't be anything that the Germans would want to have. There's nothing in there that gives them any satisfaction in having it. There's nothing. It's not a special wood. It's not special carving or anything. It's a kind of. So are they suspicious? Superstitious that they believe in the possession? No. So take it home and give it.
Did you talk about the possibility with the museum about taking it back at some point?
We did. We're talking about because it's expensive for them to hold. Keeping it in is pretty expensive. So I think with us, it's not human remains, or it's nothing of high value to them. It's a value to our people. It's a value to that family of Lukunga's direct family. It's a value there. So we take it home and we give it a proper burial or a proper place where he doesn't have to be seen, but his family would know he came home.
But did the museum indicate that they're ready to give him back to you?
No, they are ready that we talk about it. They haven't told us yes we're going to give it back because it's pretty much early in the discussion. Are they going to give us everything back? Do we want everything? But we're talking about collaboration. How do we deal with 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 artifacts that are made from natural material? Because if you don't treat them right, climatized room, away from the sun, not in a sterilized so that no insect. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of expertise. So we have to be ready. If we take Gideon right now and take it, it'll be gone within 10 years. It'll all just crumble apart. So you just don't take. You have to say, so how do I treat this? How do I conserve these? And that's what we're doing now. In the reconciliation, we're talking about if we would, how would we do it? We want to start museums. They're saying, okay, we're willing to help you how to start it. We want to start a natural history museum. We want to start a botanical garden and a botanical museum. So all of that we want. And we're coming here to learn how it was then. How do we do this education? This is why Mike is involved because we're doing a big education We're trying to do a big education component in that. And again, it's having the reconciliation, having the Germans come and help us do it. That's part of the reconciliation. I think for the Germans as well, that's pretty important. You know,
Yes,
we
it
weren't
provides
nice
a
then.
new, an opening the
Yeah,
door
oh
to a
yeah,
new
oh yeah,
future together.
yeah,
If this things is done right from the German side,
yeah, oh
let's
yeah,
hope
oh
they
yeah.
understand the
Yes.
opportunity. So, what did you talk about at the Natural History Museum? Do they also have so-called objects from
They
your
have
island?
samples. They have samples. They have biological samples. Our ecosystem, the aquatic ecosystem, is not doing too good. It's under stress, and so we're saying, okay, can you help us? And it's nothing to give back, you know. It's just all of it is just
They don't
this.
have any material
No, not
objects
artifacts.
from
They have a lot of stuffed animals. They have a lot of
from Bukareva.
yeah.
Bukareva. Mhm.
They have a lot of animals in conservation liquids. You know, where the DNA can still be sampled, right? A lot of
And
skins.
it says that it's from your island,
It
so
says
that
from our island,
they.
yes.
Oh, okay.
It's written. It's written. Conrad was one of the biggest collectors, and he gave to the German museums. He also gave to other museums. He gave to the Vatican. They have a lot of things that Conrad had taken. So he was sampling a lot of biological material. Also, to
Were
the
there any surprises in terms of the animals that you saw there?
it was surprising now as to Ukerewe is now. After overpopulation, after excessive use of the land, cutting down trees, we were surprised to see the type of animals and the biodiversity that was there.
Not, it doesn't exist anymore
It has
today.
gone down. We don't have any wild carnivores anymore. We don't have the mongoose and the big cats. We don't have the leopards. Not on the main island. We could have it on the other island, but we haven't done a survey. And this is another thing that we want. Can they help us create a platform where we can go, a project where we can go and do survey of what is there? You know, what did we have? Why did we forget it? And then now, how can we restore it? And so one of the big things that Dr. Ina Oyman had told us, these are the three things that you should be looking at. So I would like to ask him, we did ask him, do you want to help us do this? Because you have the scientific knowledge here of what we have, and you want to help us do it, how far we can do rewilding, restoring the aquatic ecosystem, as well as the fauna and flora in the terrestrial system. Can we restore it? Because it was a flourishing economy before, and it's one of the most biodiverse areas. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the most biodiverse area in one of the ones in East Africa. An island in the tropics with all fresh water. So many things. The plant world, the fauna world, and you can see it here at
Yeah, the
Natural History.
botanical. Yeah, and how about the botanical museum?
That was
Did you
also
find also specimens
they had
from
specimens of
Ukareve?
different trees. We didn't. I would have liked to go and look at the herbs. They showed us, but not what they had. But there was more, and it was scientific. It takes time to go through it. They couldn't show us everything, but once we start, can we then start describing, what is, what kind of plants were we using, what were we eating, what were we growing, what herbs were we using for what reason, for medical or nutritional, or for poisoning, whatever, cleaning up an area so that there's no animals or whatever. There's a lot of items. They have a lot of samples, and they also put it in a bank, a DN bank, so it would be easy to find the match and reforest Ukerewe, because a lot of the trees have been cut down, overpopulation. So, and the ecosystem needs to be brought up again, water and the terrestrial. So, lucky enough, yes, we have it here. We have the baseline data of what it was back then, 200 years ago almost, when it was very sustainable and happy and very biodiverse.
So you asked in all three museums in Berlin, you asked if they could support you or initiate some sort of collaboration, and how did they respond to
No,
it?
they were happy about it. They were happy. I think they were happy in saying, okay, this is something good. We can do this good. We can you know repair the sins of the past, so to say. I suppose. I don't know. They're scientists, so of course scientists are. They look at it scientific. They're not looking at the emotional part, but they say, okay, it is doable. Why not? And there are lots of programs about restoring. In Europe, there are lots of about going and restoring, and I think they had projects where they did go and help. Other places how to restore. So
So, in the next section, we'll talk about the ways your community relates to other communities in Tanzania on the issue of German colonialism.
yes.
Mr. Kaseza, similar to the experience of your people during German colonialism, there are many communities in present-day Tanzania that suffered from German rule and German violence, military violence. To what extent do you have spaces where you share these experiences with other communities in Tanzania?
Well, one big one is the Maji Maji. We commemorate that day. Their battle was our battle. We've said that when we became the state of Tanzania, the Republic of Tanzania. We all of us related to it, saying it's our pain as well. We don't have that many, everywhere where the Germans had gone. We in Tanzania have managed to, you come together and you say, okay, we commemorate it. It's a common enemy. Around the lake, we don't have that much. There wasn't that much of a clash. Of course, there were people who were killed who resisted, and the Germans weren't. They weren't that kind. You cut off the hand, or you punish them pretty brutally. So that was it. But there wasn't that big war in the south. Here there could have been others against Ngoni as well. They did. But we the communities, we were lucky. We did have good leaders to bring us into independence. Also telling the British to go home. Leaving us to independence, us changing the borders. Claiming that Tanganyika was no longer there. It was now Tanzania. So we were designing ourselves, getting away from the colonial past, because our borders were now totally different. So we could start off like that, and with that, it was interesting for us to know that we're starting off in a new country, a new place, a new name that wasn't before. So that brought us together, and then we chose Swahili to unify us. That was also a unifying factor. So Tanzania was lucky in that sense, that we had a very good leader, president, who took us into independence, and we always had trade amongst each other, especially around the lake, where the majority of Tanzanians were. We were around the lake. That's where the biggest majority of Tanzanians are living. And we've always been friends with each other, even before the colonials came. So it was just going back to that. It was just going back to that friendship. Now, of course, we're still friends also across the river, into the next, into Uganda and Kenya as well. You find it's more attracted to each other. We're still more friends than what they are in their own countries. And so I have more affinity with the Ugandans than I would with the ones down south. speak the same language. We're from the lake. We eat the same food. We both fish eater. So being around the lake, you come to trade with each other and live with each other for many years. So Tanzania was lucky. We were lucky that we managed to unify the 130 plus nations and make us feel like one nation.
And going back to the historical period of the German rule in your country, what attention or what interest is there, let's say, in the media or in the educational system?
What was there before? We worked hard at our unity. It was very much pronounced. It was very much emphasized. School was about promoting Swahili. It wasn't English, it was Swahili, which was a language. Why do we learn it? Because then we can talk to everybody. We would have regional governors, commissioners, not governors. There was governors before. Regional commissioners who went from that area. You would have them from other areas. We had national service where you would send these groups into another area. So you were sort of forcing us to, on purpose, it was forcing us to mingle. And it ended up being pretty good. If you had old community issues with others, that broke, it was gone. If you had superstition about others because they ate different than you did, or they treated each other different than you did, it was gone. So you said, "Oh, you're also human, or you're also." So it was a lot of. We were lucky. Tanzania is lucky in that sense. We don't have the communities clashing. You have individuals doing it, maybe, but not the community at large. So we did well. We are doing well, but still, it's not easy, and we took it for granted. And when something happens, we find out, wow, we have to redefine ourselves. So I believe we still need to work at it. And I'm hoping that, with this, we're looking at this program, with the project that we're doing now with Lukumbuzya, making it educational, talking about restoring the health of the lake, talking about restoring the health of the terrestrial area. But we want to share that with the communities around us. And that way, you also get into the dialogue, who are we? We're more than just, politics and business. We're related. We share a common thing. The natural world doesn't care about our politics. The natural world doesn't care about our different communities, how we act. It does respect. We respect it. This is the message that we, as islanders, know more than any other mainlanders. We know how fragile that is. How nature. If we don't respect nature, nature will forget us. And not allow, habitability and sustainability are very close connected. There is no habitability without sustainability. That we take from what we have here in Germany to show that we have to bring back sustainability so that habitability will be secured. And we tell everybody else around there, about living with nature, about living with each other. Go back to that trade and go back to that mingling. And we don't have that. We don't have an island network. I'm hoping that after this we'll create an island network. Just to tell islanders, because the mainlanders usually forget about it, but to do that. So we're looking at that, going beyond. We have these borders. We didn't create them, but damn it, we're gonna make the best out of it. We've done it so far. We've made the best out of it. That's how we have our. We can't. Some people say, "Oh, we have to get our dignity. Give us back." I say, no, we have our dignity.
Now, as you're reaching out to Germany now, sort of going back or building on the German colonialism and the legacies, unfortunate and the dark side of the German-Tanzanian relationship there. To what extent you feel that your government of Tanzania, is interested to support you, to provide a framework at the interstate level that will make it easier for you as a community to move forward?
They already have a restitution committee that they've created, that they're supposed to be working with the German government and the different.
Have they been out in the public for you as Tanzanians,
I don't
where
know
you
if
can
they-
address them, or where you can, articulate your interests and concerns?
Yes, we know the committee members. We know them. I don't know if it happened. We had a stakeholders meeting, which the Germans came, the museums came, and they had all the stakeholders meeting where all the communities came together, and we talked about this process. We talked about the exhibition, the Tanzanian exhibition here. So we all know, and we all know that was going to be a restitution committee. But it isn't flowing that easy. It is difficult to talk about cultural issues at the political level because it's each community has their own. So how can they represent me and represent that person? We're all different. So it has to be us, the communities, who come and tell the government how we should do this. They don't know. Who in the government knows about the Kigilia? They have no clue. They they're not. They won't even believe in that. Why is that? What is this? That it's the uncle, the Mjomba. They won't know that.
So you would have to.
Or anybody or close to associated with Akere would know. But so we deal with these issues on our own. We have the remains of human remains of the people like the Maasai, who the Germans treated very bad as well, just like the hair. So they have human remains still out there. But I know everybody knows about burying your loved one. But others, the government doesn't have that, at the political level. You can't know the grief. It's at the family level, the community that has to come up and speak their word. So this is what it's going through, the process. How do we represent each and every one of us together, but knowing that each and every one of us is unique?
But what would you like the Tanzania government to do or to provide in support of your community level activities?
Talk with the German politicians. It's at your level. Talk at their level. Talk at their level and allow this dialogue to happen. Talk about it, and when you hear about support financially, then support that as well. Because it's even here the German government is not always in support of what the museums are willing to do. No, then you two talk about it, and we lobby you what to say, so that they will agree that the communities and the museums then create a dialogue and a project, action, program of action.
So in the final section, we'll turn to your expectations, wishes of what the German side should do. In the final section now, Mr. Kaseza, I would like to hear from you. What do you expect from the German side regarding colonial legacies and how to move forward now in relations and in collaboration with Tanzania?
Reconciliation means admitting to the truth and owning it. Owning that there was a lot of hurt, grief, pain caused. Owning it and then saying, can I still be friends with you? Can we still go on? Can we make up for what has happened? Can we start again? And I think this is what I would tell the German government, that they should be willing to move forward with that, saying yeah, which they did. I mean, the president came and said, we're sorry, we own it. And so now, that has to go into action. And this is what we're waiting for, the action happening there. And we're waiting for our government as well to go in and take that into action. And then letting the community, you can't speak on behalf of the community at the at the at the bottom level, at the community level, at the cultural level, because we're so different. All our cultures are different. How we laugh, how we get angry is all different. How we look at things, how our society is structured, it's all different. Us being islanders, I think we there's not that many islands in Tanzania. So us being islanders is also unique from the mainlanders. We're totally different. And that's what we as a community, island community, would like to do. To go and discuss directly with the museums about our needs. And they have said, the Germans said, "Look, yeah, we want to be friends. Let's see if we can help you." So I would like the German to allow the museums to do their job, those who are into proactiveness to come and do it, and for us to also go up and do it. So the government can talk to each other, making sure that they regulate that everything is done properly, without hurting, without anybody, being what do you call it? Being not abused, but not being treated right. And that's what I'd like them to do. But as we during the week we were here, it looks good. The museums are willing to discuss how we can reconcile and action from the German side, and from our side, the equivalent action of receiving or giving, because we also have things to give, information to give. What we want to do in Keda's situation, we'd like to do a research of the biodiversity, what is still there, and compare to what the picture Germany has. And any deficit, can we help each other to bring it up again? So I think for the scientists, that's just a world, a beautiful world. I'm sure they have lots of researchers willing to do it. We heard today how some of them in Southeast Asia, they're doing research work.
In the Natural History Museum.
Yeah. And the botanical as well.
Botanical.
How they go. Dr. Borsch was just in Dominica. He goes around and looks at different botanical ecosystems, right? And so there is a lot that we can do. And it's just the politicians who would allow it, because it's always them, because they're the ones who have the last say. But, if we can show something very good could come out of this, why not? Why not?
Do you have other meetings besides the three museums, other talks or institutions that you're meeting in Germany?
We did. We went to the Doppeldorf Museum.
Ah, yes, to the open air museums.
Museum.
Yes.
We went there. Incredible. That was. I asked for that because living in Sweden, Skansen, which is the first open air museum in the world, right? And that was just fantastic. My father loved it. We used to go there practically every summer. So we went to the Doppel Museum here, and the people, the volunteers, and it was just incredible how community owned it is. But they're also struggling with finance, and you wonder, but you have the most visitors of any museum, and they still struggle. So you see again the politicians, and you saw that a lot of them were complaining about we're loved. People come, kids are there learning, and they're still struggling with proving themselves their worth. I mean, if you have more than 50% of all museum seekers go there, what more proof do you need? But that's what we have to look at as well. It's just not. We'd like to learn how to do that. Set up also an open air museum showing how we lived then, which was sustainable, ecologically sustainable, which we need now. Everybody needs it. But do we have the support from the politicians to allow, experimental farms? We're showing the kind of livestock, the healthy ones, not the inbreeding that's happening now, and the kind of how we grow, not the commercial type of grain, but the healthy type of grain. Can we show that how it's grown, and the different building materials that we used to use? So it's the same issues that they have at Local Museum is what we will be facing.
And do you have specific projects on Ukerewe where you can start moving into a new direction that then could be used to collaborate with the German side?
We have areas where we would like to do that, and we want to go and explore if we can start there. And it's all about creating resilience in the community. So it's only going to be good for the community, our community, and for the Germans. Coming over and helping, coming over and visiting and saying we were helping you.
They can connect. Do you have a cultural center?
Okay, no. We don't. We have where Homecomers House, which we want to be a cultural community center.
So the house is still there, the original
the palace is still there.
Palace, yes.
The palace is still there, so we want to expand, create botanical garden, create library, because there is no library on the island. Create a library where you can have access at different levels of your education. You have the little kids enjoying it, the primary school kids, the secondary and the university level. All of them can enjoy learning about our history, or what resilience is all about, how islanders, how to make our communities resilient again.
And beyond the museums or the institutional partners you met here while in Berlin, do you also connect with any, let's say, civil society organizations or local initiatives in Berlin?
No, we haven't. We've made the connection with museums. You have in Würzburg, they have a connection there with
Mwanza, yes, yes.
So I know Ramona.
Yes, Ramona Seitz.
Yes,
yeah.
I know her, so we collaborate there. She's in Mwanza right now, actually. They're going to have their anniversary this year.
Of the city partnership.
Yeah, the city partnership.
Okay.
So that I personally, it's not the community, but I personally have done. So, and it's with Mwanza, which is the province. They're Mwanza city, that's true, but it's in the province, Mwanza province, region where I come from, where Ukerewe is. So it shouldn't be difficult to extend that, try to create also that partnership, creating a partnership with the universities so we can collaborate on that sense as well. So we'll need it not just the museum, but the universities. That's where the research. So we're going to want to do research. So we need to do that. Okay, the Botanical Garden is a research institute, so that's okay in that sense. But if you want to do about degrees, maybe it's smart that we get a university involved as well.
So as we have come to the end of our conversations, Mr. Kaseza, are there some concluding remarks from your side?
No, I'm concluding it. I think we're on the track for something really good here. They've all shown an interest. We've all talked about the positive impact we can have in what climate change has done. Can we then look at what the evidence we have here of how okay it was? Can we take it back and change? So they're all excited about that. All of them being scientists, so that they would. So I think there's positive. There's things that we can. I think we have good chance. It's just the politics side of it. Can we get funding for this? We'll be allowed to do this without having to wait for signatures. We're trying to say, it's down. It's just about cultural things. If you're talking about helping clean up the water, then you do need signatures, from the right people. You just can't move DNA across borders like that. So you do need signatures from the politics side. But hopefully that we'll be able to do the concept work, so it'll be able to be seen directly, so it will be transparent. And it's only for the good of everything. So.
Okay, so thank you very much
And
for
I
this
thank you.
meaningful and very interesting conversation. And let's hope many good flowers will flourish from these first encounters you've had in Berlin.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you.